Welcome to Keep It Electric with Tremayne Person, episode 50. Believe it or not, we're at 50. We've hit a milestone that I'm beyond excited about. I'm super excited for the next 50 episodes, but today I just want to celebrate the moment because every step there counts. If you're discovering this podcast for the first time while browsing, welcome. Make sure to follow my Instagram page at Keep It Electric for updates, behind the scenes content, and more. And to those who found your way here from Instagram, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that follow button, drop a rating, hopefully a positive one, leave a review, hopefully a positive one, and your support really does mean everything. We're in season 2, and it's been a really fun, organic journey. I am thrilled about where we're headed, especially as we push past this 50 episode mark and continue to grow. This episode is being recorded on Tuesday, September 3rd. The Mariners are sitting at 69-69, right at 500. And let's just be real. This isn't exactly where any of us expected this franchise to be over the past couple seasons, but here we are. Let's dive into the last few days and break down how we got here. First up, let's talk about some roster changes. Gabe Speier got the call back to AAA. That makes room for Luis Urias to rejoin the MLB roster. Now, Speier is fresh off of a one-inning shutdown against the Giants on, I think that was August 23rd. He fanned 2 batters, might be scratching his head a little bit about the move. I think the organization and Wilson might be sending him back down for more reps, but honestly, it's a head-scratcher to me too because he's a good bullpen arm. Maybe it's all part of their bigger plan. They're assessing talent, making tough decisions for the offseason. Urias, he's been far from impressive on the big stage. This could be his last shot to prove that he's worth the $5 million contract as he heads into year 4 of arbitration. He's got free agency looming in 2026. His future with the team is anything but certain. If I were the one calling the shots, I would consider moving on from him. There's plenty of infield talent down in the farm. They're both more reliable and both more affordable than him. In other news, the club is bringing back Jonathan Diaz and Edward Brazardo as part of their roster expansion. This move to me makes total sense given how much the bullpen's been taxed recently. A few extra arms could give guys like Thornton, Snyder, and Munoz a much-needed rest. Plus, it's another chance for Diaz and Brazardo to prove that they belong at the major league level. They've had a really rocky season. I would consider it just a final audition for them. It's time to see who steps up when it matters the most here. Now, who would have expected the Angels to win this past series? Many, including myself, would have thought that the Mariners would have taken 2 out of 3. However, if you consider the way the Angels have played against the Mariners all season, this outcome isn't really surprising. As it's not as surprising as it was disappointing, if that makes sense. They faced each other 13 times. The Angels have won 8 of those games. Going to this series, the Mariners were down 4-6 in the win-loss column against the Angels, and they had lost 6 straight against them. Despite this, comparing both teams on paper, it's hard to argue that the Angels are the stronger team. The fact that 2 of the Angels' starting pitchers were also making their major league debut in this set, it really only adds to the frustration that the Mariners must have and the frustration that the fan base must have. Before I dive a little deeper into this segment, because I did keep my receipts here, I'm going to play a little snippet of what I said towards the end of last week's episode. In this first series, the Mariners have to watch out for Joe Adell and Mickey Moniak. Those are 2 names that really, on paper, it doesn't look like much. But out of all the names for the Angels that's not named or doesn't finish with the name Trout, those are the 2 players that have really lit the Mariners up for the last couple of years. They've had some huge games. Joe Adell, I think he had two game-winning home runs against the Mariners this year. And Mickey Moniak always plays well. Both Joe Adell and Mickey Moniak are hitting over 300 against Kirby today too. So you need to look out for that. There you have it. So what on earth do you all think happened next here? Mickey Moniak goes 4 for 11 with 3 home runs and 4 ribbies. Adell, 3 for 9, 2 home runs, 2 ribbies. Taylor Ward was an unsung hero in the mix. I don't know how this is not infuriating. Adele's a career 213 hitter. He's hitting 211 this year. He has certainly improved with his power. I'm not taking that away from him. But like it's got to be frustrating that we're letting this guy become a Mariner killer. Same goes for Moniak. These are two young players with potential, but they're the ones who are consistently hurting us. The Mariners did nothing to adjust their strategy against them. Game 2, lost that game 5-4. We lost that game to a team where Moniak and Adele were responsible for 4 of the hits and 2 of the home runs in that game. They drove in all 5 of the runs in that game. I don't really understand how we couldn't have been prepared for this. The last time we faced them, Moniak and Adele were driving in each other home. They were tearing us apart. So it's like the Mariners forgot everything that they learned from the last encounter and then just did it again. Let's not even start on Zach Neto, because Zach Neto was missing ground balls. He was giving the Mariners the game. Anthony Rendon, he was wearing a uniform. Like Anthony Rendon was wearing a uniform. He had a glove. He was hitting. He had a bat. He is a liability for the Angels. So the shortstop and the third base position were practically giving us a game. Negative wins above replacement. This isn't really a team that the Mariners should be losing to, yet that's what we have to put up with. Especially with every game being so crucial in September. The Astros are on fire. This is not good. So I want to clarify a little bit because I know that my discussion here and my discussion of the series, it will convey a sense of frustration. That's not a surprise. It is important to note that the Mariners, they did experience defeat, and it was crushing because of this time of year. The defeat in the scoreboard, I don't think it was as severe as it may seem, just because the Mariners did outscore the Angels. The series was challenging. It hurt their win-loss record. It definitely hurt their playoff positioning. But the games were still extremely close, and they could have gone either way. So, take that for what it is. The final result, though, of this whole thing, it's just disappointing. So, because I really don't want to just I want to be realistic because the Mariners don't look good right now. I also do want to highlight a couple things that are positive here. So Julio Rodriguez, he definitely seems to be emerging out of his slump. He hit safely in all 3 of those games. He hit his average was 357 in those games. He had a home run and 4 ribbies. His power stroke definitely is showing signs of resurgence. That will be crucial if the Mariners really want to get back into this playoff race. Luke Raley, I'm a fan of Luke Raley. He continues to provide power when he's given the chance to. He did make a critical base running error in that final game. That hard chopper that J.P. Crawford hit to first base. Raley was leading off first, and he was tagged out at second. The first baseman made a really great play. He managed to field the ball, and he made a perfect throw to second base. If Raley slid into second base in that moment, that could have made a difference. Ultimately, the Mariners were just really in a tough position. That ball was put him in a tough position, and they were already playing from behind. They were trying to catch up in the top of the 9th against Ben Joyce, who's throwing 105 miles an hour. That's an uphill battle. Speaking of an uphill battle, things definitely took a turn after Shea Langelier. We're moving on to the A's now. After Shea Langelier's walk-off home run yesterday. Yesterday, the opening game for their 4-game set. I got to be real. I don't think I'm the only one who really saw that Shea Langelier walk-off coming. I just happened to be the one to have the opportunity to say it out loud and say it in the microphone. When Austin Voth took the mound in that 4-4 tie, it felt like the writing was on the wall. And that's not me saying that Austin Voth is a bad pitcher. He's solid, but he's not the guy you want in a high leverage situation, especially one like that. It's really, I can't imagine the amount of Mariners fans watching Austin Voth leave the bullpen when you're looking at Andres Munoz right there who's ready. I get why we didn't put Munoz in the game. I understand that. Like, we're on the road, so having Munoz available for closing the game out is, ideal. But 4-4, and your choices are Austin Voth or Andres Munoz, I'm going Munoz. I don't care. Especially with a power threat like Shea, who's already burned us once in that game. You're going to send Austin Voth in. So Shea, hits a second home run, and that was the final blow. It's a walk-off. So that decision alone and that play, that pushes the Mariners one step closer to the brink of a postseason elimination. That's just the results of that. What makes this loss sting even more is that the Astros also dropped their game yesterday. So the Mariners missed a golden opportunity to gain ground in the division race. At this point, it would take something close to a complete collapse by Houston for the Mariners to even have a shot at winning the division. We've seen collapses before. Actually, we've seen our own collapse this year. And I'm not giving up on the Mariners until the door is completely shut. But realistically, it's starting to feel like we might need to prepare for the offseason. Looking deeper into this, there are 24 games left in the season with 18 until their crucial 3-game set against the Astros. So ideally, they want to be within 3 games of first place when that series starts. So if you do the math, which is not going to be perfect math from me because my math will be mathin', if you do the math, to keep pace and make up a 3-game difference in 18 games, the Mariners, in my opinion, will probably need to win at least 13 of their next 18 games. So even then, 13-5, like that might not be enough to get within 3 games with how well the Astros are playing. I think they just swept the Royals. So that's also that's not even acknowledging that the Mariners still have to face tough opponents like the Padres and the Yankees during that stretch as well. So 13-5, I mean, I don't see it, but that's what they need to do. So I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely a steep climb. On top of that, the Mariners are also 5.5 games out of the wild card. At this point, the path of least resistance, it's just an easier path to be aiming for the division title, especially since they don't match up with most of those teams in the wild card race. To transition here, I'm not really trying to end on a downer, because if you are a sports fan, you know that sometimes you just have to say there's always next year. And we're not there yet, but we have to own that. And that's okay. We're gearing up for the future. And as a fan base, we should be prepared for that. So here's the thing. I'm doing this podcast because I love this team. And you're probably listening because you care about them too. Just because the season hasn't gone the way we hoped does not mean that there's nothing to talk about. There's so much nuance to this game and this organization, and that's what really keeps it exciting. So yes, 2024, this might end up being labeled as a disappointing season, but there are so many reasons to be optimistic about the Mariners' future. This team is young. They're still learning. They're still figuring out what it takes to become a winning franchise. I know we all feel a little frustrated. I'm frustrated. We maybe even feel misled, especially misled by the front office's promises of winning now. I get that, and I feel that too. Despite the challenges, I believe that the Mariners are still headed in the right direction. They're learning from their mistakes, and really their next step is to show us that they've absorbed those lessons and then demonstrate them to their fan base. That's all we want to see, a team that's continuously growing, becoming more competitive, and winning back their fan base and winning for themselves. The future is definitely still bright, and I'm really excited to see what unfolds for them. So thanks for tuning in to another episode. I'll be back Friday to talk more about the rest of this A series and what the future holds for the Mariners. Stay hopeful, and let's just keep cheering for the team that we love. This is episode 50, folks. I appreciate you all. Until next time, keep it electric. Go Mariners!